and welcome back to Worlds Apart, Words Together, where best friends share laughter, stories, and an unbreakable bond. And I'm here today with my co host, Leah. Hello, Leah.
Hi.
Back for another great week
We
of
are.
episodes. Well,
We
one
are.
episode, technically. Um, yeah, if you listened to our last episode, I hope you enjoyed it and that yeah, you took something away from it. And if you haven't listened to it yet, make sure to go back and listen. This week, we're kind of keeping it short, I think, if we can. Somehow, always struggle with that. But we're trying to keep it short, and we're going to talk about a very essential topic, I think. Right?
Yeah, this week is going to be more practical. We've gathered a list of things that we think will be helpful to implement in any kind of way for anyone's type of lifestyle. Normally, we talk a little bit more about some things that we're dealing with throughout the week and try to relate it to to anyone who is listening, and maybe they'll take something from it. But I think this week we decided to take the more practical route and actually give
Yeah.
you guys a list of stuff, a list of things to follow, and some options to create a more optimized schedule.
Yeah. So basically, the topic is time management strategies to survive the busy weeks. Now, I feel like in general, our weeks are pretty busy as we grow older or even during college. Like, our weeks are pretty busy and a lot of things require our attention. Um, Today, what we're going to do is talk about some things that we think might help to effectively manage that time and also find ways to not only be on the go the entire week, but also have some moments to yourself and some moments of relaxation to tackle the next day of busyness.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because these tasks can be used one to be productive, but also be productive in a way that you are giving yourself some time to recover and to decompress after a busy day. So I guess we can go ahead and get into it. And one is pretty obvious, as everyone likes to talk about this, I feel like, but prioritize task. So distinguish between urgent and important, non-urgent, non-important task. A good method of using, or one good method to do this is through the Eisenhower Matrix. And the Eisenhower Matrix is a task management tool that helps you organize and prioritize tasks through by urgency and
Words are
importance.
difficult.
Yeah, we're like really struggling with words. Okay. So I'll just like briefly touch on the distinguishment between urgent and important, because we can be like, oh yeah, we're gonna separate tasks through like urgency and important, but how do you know how to classify something as urgent or important? So they do seem similar, but using this Eisenhower matrix, there are some differences between the two. So urgent tasks require your immediate attention. It is those things that you obviously have to have prioritize pretty high. It is something that has to be done right then and there, or there will be consequences if you don't complete them. Important tasks may not require your immediate attention, but these tasks do need to get done so that you can achieve your long-term goals. So again, if something is urgent, it is critical for you to get done. There will be consequences if they're not done. It is like the top of your priority list. Important tasks are important for continuous future growth, but may not have to necessarily be done on that specific day.
Do we have examples of urgent tasks and important tasks, you may ask? Of course we do.
Yeah.
We we always bring the examples. An urgent task. I would say preparing food for yourself is kind of an urgent task. It's one of those things that is good to do to feel better because you need to eat. Unless it's 4 in the morning, then it might not be an urgent task. But I think making dinner is one that could go on there.
Yeah, I mean, it literally could be anything that is super urgent. Like if something, your car breaks down. Mart had a great experience of this. That kind of is urgent, especially if you're in
Yeah,
the US or pretty much like
anywhere.
anywhere. But I mean, you guys have better generalized public transportation than the US, but
True.
still,
Still, I was
Mart
somewhere that
had
I
Mart had a
didn't.
fun time this week of her car breaking down. So that's an
Probably.
urgent task that you would need to get fixed because
Yeah,
otherwise you couldn't go to work or you couldn't get groceries, you couldn't get home, etc.
yeah. I think urgent tasks could also be those that are unexpected. It's like those tasks that just pop up out of nowhere of like, well, I guess I gotta do this now. And that was a great example. Thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah, and then obviously important tasks are or another urgent task is like if you're in school and you have an assignment due, like that is urgent. It needs to get done. You need to turn it in or
Yeah,
otherwise like you're not going to get a grade.
yeah.
That's also an example of an urgent task. For a great example of that in a way is a colleague of mine and me had a draft manuscript due Tuesday morning to our like director, and we had a very limited time over like the week and a half prior to actually do this because we had some other more urgent matters to deal with. So we
Then that
had
became an urgent task.
and then it got to the point where this manuscript became a very urgent task. So Monday night we sat down at like 3:30 and did not stop working till like 2:10 in the morning. We locked ourselves in a little tiny like seminar room, so it was like a round table and it had like a whiteboard and it had like a monitor that you could like cast your like work onto. So we locked ourselves in that room for literally that amount of time, only leaving to like use the restroom essentially,
Nice.
um, and get some water. But other than that, we locked ourselves in there because it was an urgent task and we were going to like have consequences. Not really, but I mean, not like, oh, like you're gonna lose your job or anything, but like it was a
Yeah.
deadline that our like boss gave us and that had to be done.
Yeah.
Um, so that was an
So
example of kind of like
great
work.
examples.
Yeah, some pretty good examples of urgent, like they're like it's
Yeah.
time sensitive type of things. Important, I think, is more like I really need to clean my house.
Yeah.
Like
Or
I
I
really
really
should
need
do
to take
that,
out the
but
trash.
that can be delayed till the weekend, or that
Yeah.
can be delayed to a time when I have a little bit more free time to
Yeah.
establish that designated time for cleaning the house.
Yeah. Exactly. And then to kind of go into that, after prioritizing tasks, it is helpful to also kind of obvious for some people create a schedule. I used to not do this ever. I was like, I will know. Um, I
I
found out in
always do.
college I will not know. um, a schedule is just super helpful or a planner to map out your work and blocking time for each task. It can also help to have those floating thoughts of those tasks be on paper so you don't have to keep them in your brain. If you don't write them down, it's possible that you're continuously, unconsciously thinking about, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. But if you have a list or if you have a planner written down what you need to do, you can look at it and you can process it and they don't have to float in your brain.
Yeah, I think it's very important. There's a lot of different ways to create a schedule, and people do it in a lot of different ways. Some
Yeah.
people like the digital format. I promised myself I would try the digital format at my new job. I did try it. It did not work for me. I am still a paper person.
I'm also a
Uh,
paper person.
so like for example, like I have my little like planner here. Um, and then you can do different things. Like I like to go ahead and block out days of which I know certain deadlines, and then I can color coordinate them based on like topic or whatever you want.
Yeah,
And then in like the week schedule or the daily schedule, I can actually like write it
yeah,
by
write
time
it out.
and like
Yeah,
what is actually happening on that day. And
yeah.
yeah, so some people
And
like to do it digitally, but I'm still pro paper and
I
seeing it.
do for my work now. I do both.
Hmm.
I in my personal agenda though I write my work and my personal stuff. But in my work agenda, it's nice to have it online so people
Yeah,
can see my schedule, so they know when they can have meetings with me and when I'm busy or not. But
I have that
honestly,
too, but like
yeah,
when I'm available for like different visits or different meetings and stuff like
yeah.
that. But for me, like
Um,
I could not live without my paper version.
There are so many different ways in which you can schedule, though. Like, you have ways where you just write down the tasks that you need to do in the morning, afternoon, and night. Or, like Leah, you block it into different times. Try some things out and see what works for you. It's not wrong. Like, whatever you do, you'll be fine. You just got to do whatever works for you. And if that means you just write it all in one big list of the things that you need to do in 1 week, go for it. But play with it, try it out. But I think having written down tasks that you need to get done during that week is just helpful for you.
Yeah, I've also found it have found it helpful to have more than one like task list going at one time. So I'll have like a general list of everything I feel like I know I have to get done in a week. But then I have my day to day one that I'll write the morning of and be like, or the night before, be like, okay, tomorrow this is priority. This is what I have to get done.
Yeah.
And like
See,
that's
not
also how
everybody
like
is that structured.
yeah,
But
I know. I just have to because otherwise my brain runs around with like a
yeah,
goose
and
for
that
head.
works for Leah. For me, that would take too much work.
Oh, literally, it's like 2 minutes. You just like, do, do,
No,
do,
I
do,
know,
do.
it's too much work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
if anyone needs some guidance on how I set up my stuff, if you're one of those people who are like, I really want to try to be like ultra organized, I got you.
and if you just want to be a little bit organized, I got you.
Margaret clearly doesn't have enough going on.
No, I mean, I've got enough.
You got enough. You got enough for
I've got
you.
enough. I've got enough. No, especially next week, like I need to do major time management because my class starts again. But anyway, to continue, we already touched on it a little bit, but time blocking might be helpful for you. I found this to be helpful for one of my clients, and they like to have their tasks blocked in times because he also tends to overwork himself and he's got physical problems. So when he does, he just gets knocked down for 3 days. So we talked about allocating a time like 15 minutes to this one task, and then after 15 minutes the alarm goes off and you finish the task. That is also to prevent himself from going too far. He does it in his online schedule so that if he can't do it on, let's say, Thursday, he can move the
Hmm.
time block to a different day. So then at least he sees the task that needs to be done, but it's not really set in stone when he does it.
Yeah. I also think that if I have found it very helpful to do time blocking, it takes out of those distractions. Because you can say, I'm going to do this for 45 minutes. And if you you take away most of the distractions and you focus on that for 45 minutes, you will be shocked about how productive you can be
Yeah.
and how many like extra, like outside factors can diverge your concentration and how unproductive you can be. Like it's insane how productive you really can be if you really stick to a time block.
Yeah. That's why it's always also better, let's say when you're in college and you want to study for a test, it's better to say blocks of like 45 minutes, an hour with like breaks in between than to just try to sit and knock it out in 2 hours. Because you don't retain as much information when you sit for 2 hours than when you have blocks or periods of 45 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think also a good like practical example is, say you need to clean your apartment, okay, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's always like an all day ordeal. No, it's not. It literally might take 2 hours to clean like a one bedroom apartment. You're
Yeah.
just
To clean the
distracted
entire
by
thing.
your phone, or you're distracted by whatever it might be, because
Yeah.
in reality, to clean the bathroom might take like 12 minutes, not a
The
half an
hardest
hour,
thing though
not an hour.
is to put yourself to that task.
Yeah.
Because I think what people experience is that the leading up to the task is a hassle, but then once they've actually started it and they're into it, it's easier. That is also a problem with my client because he's like, well, it takes me so much effort to start the task, but then once I'm in the flow, like I can't stop. Like I need to get it done. So it's like find a way where it's easy for you to also start the task. And if it helps to say, I'm only going to do it for 45 minutes and then I'll have a glass of wine or whatever.
And part of that's like time blocking on your schedule, because you can see your schedule and that gives you like a timeline of like, I have to start at this time. And then
Yeah.
once you start, you're like, I'm going to finish at this time. And
Yeah.
that kind of helps with that motivation to get started. Another a kind of similar idea of being a strategy is time, or not time blocking, we just talked about that, but batching task. So essentially, batching task is grouping similar tasks together to maintain efficiency. So like you can say, I'm going to do all of this type of work first, and then I'm going to take a break, and then I'm
Yeah.
going to do all of this type of work next, and you can take a break. And it kind of decreases that multitasking break of concentration. So you can say, I'm going to do all of my emails like first thing in the morning. And like
Yeah.
you're batching all of that, and then you'll be fine. So I think it's just a good kind of way, similar to time blocking, that we can kind of organize our to-do list and our prioritization of urgent to important tasks, and be more efficient in what we have to do. And therefore, like, you can realize how much time in the day you really have, and that certain tasks really don't take as long as what they normally do.
Yeah. And then lastly, we already touched on it a little bit, but now we're going to go into it a little bit deeper. And that is using the Pomodoro Technique. And you may wonder what that is, and I will tell you. It basically is a time management method, and it's developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s. And it uses a kitchen timer, like one of those ones that you can like twist and it'll
The
rattle.
egg timers.
Egg timers, in this case, it is a Pomodoro, like a tomato, therefore the Pomodoro technique. Um,
And you can literally use any timer. Let's be
any
real. If
timer,
you
but
not,
it stems from this
yeah,
from this, so that's why it's called that. But yeah, it's a management method, and it's basically 25 minutes separated by short breaks, and these intervals of 25 minutes following by those short breaks can enhance concentration.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be 25 minutes. Like, it can be like 45 minutes. Obviously, don't go too long. Whatever works for your set concentration. You're
Yeah,
like, okay, and maybe you need to build up, so maybe you can only do 15 minutes at a time to begin with, or 30
yeah,
or 25, whatever. But essentially, it's like you're going to set your time, and you're going to do a 5 minute break, a short break, and you're going to repeat that 3 times. And then on the third
Yeah.
time, you give yourself a longer break. And then possibly switch tasks that you are doing or whatever it
Yeah.
might be. And this is, again, it's another method or another technique for productivity to kind of just enhance that productivity and learn how to manage your uh, concentration and anything that might disrupt you.
To kind of add to all of this, is like now we have given you some methods, tips, whatever you want to call them, to manage your time effectively. I think when you want to concentrate on a task, and especially when it revolves studying, reading, doing any sort of brain activity, I think it is important to put away any sort of distraction by your phone, for example, or if you know you're going to get distracted by sounds, maybe use noise canceling headphones. So use those things too to enhance your focus on those tasks, because increasing that focus will also help with finishing the task more effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell a funny, not really a funny story, but a story my mom told me that how she used to motivate herself in grad school. And
Okay.
so she, back in the day, when there's these things called textbooks, okay? I know it's kind of foreign in today's
I
world, but
have a textbook. What do
I
you
I
mean?
don't like, we don't do anything with textbook. I've not used textbooks since before COVID, I think.
Damn.
Yeah. So anyway, back to my story. So my mom, back when she was in grad school, she used they used textbooks and they would go chapter by chapter essentially in like classes and everything, and they would say, okay, these chapters are going to be on the exam, like you need to study these chapters for the exam. So my mom, she loved M&Ms. Loved M&Ms. That was her thing. She liked M&Ms. So she would get one of those like little packets of M&Ms and she would break up her chapters with these M&M packets. So if she got to an M&M packet, she would stop, like review and feel confident that she knew everything up to the M&M packet, and once she knew it, she ate the M&M packet, and then she could continue on to the next M&M packet, and that is how she motivated herself to study because she wanted to
And
eat
that
the
is how
M&Ms.
she gained 100 pounds.
No, my mom was fit in grad school.
Oh, that'd be
My mom
funny.
like was
Yeah. I was just
very
kidding.
fit and buff, but she like that was her treat, and it helped her like it motivated
Yeah.
her to study, and that was kind of her way of using some of these techniques. But she just, her little break was her treat, so she eat her
Yeah.
M&Ms.
And that's what we mean by whatever works for you, works for you. Try some things out. If it doesn't work, try again until you found a
This
method
was
that
also
fits
before
you.
like phones and social media and stuff, so
Yeah.
you
The
gotta think.
distractions are real. This,
Yeah. And things like, if what motivates you is you want to go back on TikTok for 5 minutes, then that's what motivates you. Like that wasn't a
yeah.
thing when my mom was in grad school. So I thought that was a funny thing. She always used to tell me, she was like, you could always like, get yourself to concentrate because you get to eat the M&Ms in the end. I was like, I just eat the M&Ms and say screw it. But I'm glad that worked for you. But yeah,
Yes.
that is an interesting story from my mom. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think this is kind of all that we wanted to share with you guys today. Kind of short but sweet. I hope these are some tips that you can help or that you can use to enhance your effectiveness during the week. What we also say, or what I want to say, is that this doesn't mean that you have to try to do as much work in one week as possible.
Mm-mm.
It's very important to also make time for yourself and make time for things that you like. But if that means that you have to make time for that in your schedule, then please do that. Make time for relaxation, get enough sleep. Leah,
I do.
okay. Just
Minus one
making
day.
sure.
Minus one night.
Minus one day. Yeah. No, get enough sleep and just take care of yourself, and then
Sorry.
and then maybe these methods will work for you.
Yeah, and again, if you really stick to one or of these for a little bit, I really do believe you'll realize how much free time you have in your day. And to
Yeah.
Mara's point, don't then pack in more on that day.
No.
The
Because you
free
already
time
have
that you,
enough going on.
yeah, that free time that you have found, use it for yourself, for your family, for enjoying your life. So
Yeah.
again, if you have some other ideas on, ways to help time management through the super busy weeks, feel free to, share them. We always want to hear more, but this is a list of things that we think that we have used that how we believe are helpful, and we hope that
Yeah.
you guys find helpful. So with that, thank you for joining us as we offer a glimpse into the world of true friendship, where even though worlds may seem apart, the connections remain strong.
Thank you. Bye.